Do you need a DAC? Do you need it to look sexy as hell? Do you need it to not only be a DAC, but also be a headphone amp and a preamp? And do you need a wide range of connections on the back? Do you need this all to be a neat and tidy package for about 500 bucks-ish? Well, I've got you covered. Well, Cambridge Audio has you covered. I'm just going to talk about it here. If you're feeling friendly, please give this video a like and consider subscribing so you can get new videos sent to you when they're released. Also, down below in the description there, you'll find a link to the full article on home theater secrets, as well as links for associated equipment and products reviewed in this video. It's the first Cambridge product to natively support MQA, features integrated Bluetooth, a more powerful headphone output, and superior DAC technology. It's been purpose-built to improve the sound of your system. A DAC, a digital to analog converter, is something that you see on just about every modern integrated amp these days. Home theater receivers have had DACs for years. So why would you want the Dacmagic 200M? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Maybe one, you have an older amplifier that doesn't have any digital connections. Or two, you're looking for a step up in sound from your current integrated that has digital connections, but maybe not the latest and greatest. Or three, you're looking for an all-in-one solution with a headphone amplifier, preamplifier, all the connections you ever need, and you're not looking to switch out your older gear. Visually, it's a slick-looking steel and aluminum box that's just about the size of a 80s, 90s Discman. Google it. It's about that size. It's finished in the same lunar gray that you see throughout the Cambridge Audio CX series of components and fits right in with their industrial design language. There's no remote for the 200M, which, you can call an oversight. If you're one that likes to sit back in your chair and control the volume from there without having to get up, yeah, it's a total oversight. However, if you're using it as a headphone amp, logic would dictate that you're most likely sitting at a desk or in close proximity to your amp or the Dacmagic, and with which case you can easily just reach over and control the volume that way. Alternatively, the Dacmagic also has a setting, variable or fixed. In fixed mode, a fixed signal sent through it acts more like a DAC, with which case you can control the volume via your amp of choice or your current amplifier right now. So it's not that big of a deal. I personally don't really mind getting up and adjusting the volume, but yeah, I can see why that would be an issue. While we're on the subject of volume, the volume knob itself is really stiff. It's almost like it shouldn't be moved. You know what? Let me go get it. Hang on a second. Here's what I mean. It gets no, it's not kind of. It's pretty stiff. It's almost like it shouldn't be moved. But you need to move it to adjust the volume. It's not a big deal. It's just stiffer than I thought it would have been. So, yeah. The casing is sleek, minimal, and beautiful. But while the casing is minimal, the front fascia is anything but. It's fairly busy, with the entire right side being 2 rows of LED lights that indicate what sampling rate you're listening in, from 44.1 kilohertz all the way up to 32-bit 768 kilohertz. Who uses that? LEDs for MQA and DSD are also listed and will light up as they're detected. To the left of that is a power button for selection of filter type, followed by a column of LEDs indicating which filter is active, and then a large, well, relative to the size of the fascia, volume knob. the LEDs for source type and a source button, and lastly a power button. It sounds like a lot, but it really doesn't look it. The industrial design team at Cambridge did a really good job of keeping all the lights and buttons as understated as possible while keeping the essential information clear and organized. Around the back is where you see all the digital connectivity on full display. You see 2 coaxial, 2 optical, 1 USB Type B for sources like laptops, CD players, game consoles, and Blu-ray players, and there's an integrated Bluetooth aptX with an antenna for wireless playback for smartphones and tablets. The Dacmagic 200M also has balanced and unbalanced analog connections, and a headphone output. It's a 6.3mm output with traditional Class AB amplification with a reduced output impedance for more power, less distortion, less noise, and tighter audio control. Inside are dual ESS Saver DACs. These new DACs can handle PCM and DSD signals at a greater resolution than ever before. It's also a dual mono configuration, meaning the left and right channels are processed separately, which should yield a precise and distortion-free listening experience. There are 3 digital filter preset options to help reduce the noise generated by the digital to analog conversion, each offering a different sonic option depending on what source material you're listening to. For everything else that I probably missed, here's the specs right now. In an effort to keep this video in line with the written article that I did for Home Theater Secrets, here's a bit of background on just what went on when reviewing this product. After receiving the review sample to our house in Toronto, things got a little bit busy. We sold our house, and we didn't have a new house picked out yet. We were still kind of looking. And if you know anything about the crazy real estate market here in Toronto, then you know that it took a while to find a new place. When we finally did find a new house, we had a weird overlap, or lack of overlap. We had to be out of our home in Toronto 2 months before we got our new home outside of the city. So, we packed up everything we had into storage, and anything that we could carry with us, or any essentials, we brought with us up to our cottage. And because I'm a bit of a hi-fi nutcase, I brought along my favorite audio gear. My Cambridge Audio CXA60, my NAD 326 BEE, my favorite speakers, my B&W 685 S1s, and of course the Dacmagic 200M. And there we were, living and trying to work with 2 crazy kids in a smaller place, and it took a while to get adjusted. I'm kidding, we never adjusted. Everything took twice as long, and my reviews took twice as long, and yeah. For this review, I switched between the NAD, the Cambridge, and incidentally, a Rotel amplifier that I had in for review at the time. I also had one of the amplifiers set up upstairs in the living room, and I would bring a pair of speakers upstairs every so often when the kids were out of the house so I could test out listening in that environment as well. I tried all 3 amplifiers in all 3 situations just to get a sense of how everything sounded. For headphones, I brought along my B&W P7 wireless headphones, but used a wired connection for this review. One of the sticking points of being up at the cottage is the internet. The 200M is Cambridge's first product to natively support MQA files, which is a boon for people that have MQA files handy or like to stream high-res music off of services like Tidal. Our internet at the cottage is rural, meaning slow. And streaming high-res music through services like Tidal will essentially shut down our internet or make it completely unusable if someone else is trying to do any work or a Zoom call or what have you. So I didn't, for this review, stream any high-res music. So how does the Dacmagic 200M sound? This part's going to be a bit strange, maybe a bit controversial or dumb, depending on how you look at this or me. When reviewing audio gear, there's a penchant for reviewers, and myself included, to wax poetically about the sound and the characteristics, the detail, the sound stage, all of those things that make audiophilia and the hi-fi space a fun and interesting hobby. Uh, but in this instance, I can't do that. I'm gonna border on heresy here, but when it comes to the sound of or the characteristics of the Dacmagic 200M, well, I'm not hearing anything. Now, a couple of things could be going on here. Uh, One, other reviewers maybe just making it up, doubt it, or maybe my associated equipment isn't of the level where I'm able to hear the sound traits or specific characteristics of the Dacmagic 200M. Or, more likely, uh, maybe I'm just not as refined of a reviewer or audiophile to be able to pick up on those characteristics or the subtle nuances of the Dacmagic 200M when compared to other components or other sources. Or, and maybe most likely, that the 20 years, 2 decades, yeah, 20 years that I spent in clubs listening to loud music from loudspeakers, sometimes right next to the speaker, is starting to show its effect, and I'm just not able to physically hear the differences. Either way, uh, yeah, I can't hear the difference. But if I was to pull an audio characteristic out of my butt, uh, I would say that the Dacmagic 200M is decidedly neutral. When I was playing music via my MacBook Pro into the Dacmagic 200M, the presentation was neutral. Of the three amplifiers I brought for the review, the NAD sounds like my NAD, the Rotel sounded like the Rotel, and the Cambridge sounded like the Cambridge. Neutral. And neutral isn't a bad thing. Another word that can be used in its place is transparent, where the Dacmagic 200M doesn't get in the way of the music. It just takes your digital signal, passes it through, and doesn't really alter the sound at all. It's good. I like neutral. Neutral. Neutral, 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 neutral. Apart from the sound, where the Dacmagic 200M really proved its worth was in the digital connectivity department. Take my beloved NAD 326BE. The inclusion of the Dacmagic 200M, while it didn't augment the sound to my ears, what it did do was provide connectivity for all of my digital sources, making it a much more usable integrated amplifier for day-to-day usage. Currently, I just have it connected to my turntable setup where my mixer doesn't have booth outputs, which is kind of a bummer, but I just connect the NAD to it, hook up a pair of speakers, and I'm off to the races. And that's kind of what I use it for. But with the Dacmagic 200M in place, now I can stream to the NAD, I can connect optical cables to it, I can connect CD players. It's a much more usable component. And the Dacmagic 200M made that possible. With headphones, I should mention that I'm not a big audiophile headphone listener. I use headphones when I'm on my turntables mixing, but they're really loud and they're kind of off one ear. And I used to use headphones every day when I was going into the office and sitting at my desk so I could block out all the outside noise. But now with COVID and working from home, I just use my stereo. So I don't really use headphones for hi-fi purposes. But I can say the Dacmagic 200M sounded neutral with my P7 headphones. Neutral again. I mucked around with the three digital settings or the digital filter settings, and if there was any difference between them, I didn't notice. I left it on short delay for no reason at all. Music played via Bluetooth has the usual drop off in audio quality compared to a wired connection, but it's not too noticeable and it's not something that degrades the listening experience too much. You really, really have to listen for it. But it is there and it's worth noting. This is a well-spec'd piece of audio gear. It has a wealth of connectivity and a lot of functionality that will keep audiophiles that like to tinker quite happy. And it's got a pretty good price to boot. So, did the Cambridge Audio Dacmagic 200M knock my socks off and change the way I listen to music? Yes and no. While I didn't hear any noticeable audio characteristics of the 200M, what it did do was breathe new life into my aging NAD amplifier and bring it into 2021 by adding that digital connectivity. And in that sense, it's a win. Yeah, it's a win. Review done? Neutral, 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 neutral.